In this video, we'll show you how to upgrade the factory Harley-Davidson radio on a 1998 to 2013 model with the Rockford Fosgate source unit. Hey everyone, I'm Eric and we're back here in the Rockford Fosgate R&D lab. In this video, we'll show you how to install this PMX-HD9813 into this Road Glide. First, we'll get started by removing the seat that's held in place with the thumb screw. Then we'll disconnect the battery negative using a 10mm socket. Now we're ready to remove the fairing. It's best to have someone help you during this step. First, place a fender cover or soft towel over the fender to protect it. Using a T40 Torx bit and a small ratchet, remove the 4 bolts that hold the turn signals in place. Then, using a 3mm Allen driver, remove 4 screws that hold the fairing in place, leaving 1 intact on each side. Have your helper step in front and brace the fairing, then remove the 2 remaining screws. Pull the fairing down, reach inside, and disconnect the headlight harnesses. Okay, now we're ready to remove the factory radio. First, we'll disconnect all harnesses from the back of the radio along with the antenna and any peripherals. Then we'll use a 3/16 Allen driver to remove the 2 bolts from each side of the radio and carefully remove it. Now, there's a rubber gasket around the faceplate, so it's easy if we tilt the radio up at an angle when removing it so the gasket doesn't bind to the bracket. The PMX-HD9813 is designed specifically for 1998 to 2013 models and utilizes the factory harnesses and connectors. This is to retain all factory functionality. Now, if you're removing an aftermarket radio, it likely uses an additional chassis support and harness adapter that won't be used. However, we will be reusing the 4 3/16 Allen screws that secure the source unit from the sides. If your system requires the use of RCA outputs, or you will be using an auxiliary input jack, use a T9 Torx to loosen the back screw and open the weatherproof door. Then, plug in the provided RCA harness and make your connections. Now we're ready to install our new source unit. This model offers true plug-and-play connectivity through integration into the factory harness, and it connects to factory mounting points. Now, before we start, we're going to clean the trim panel to remove any dust. When installing the source unit, we're going to tilt it at an angle, then slide it into place so the rubber gasket around the faceplate doesn't bind to the metal bracket. Then, using the same 4 bolts that we just removed, secure them into both sides of the radio. Start the screws by hand, then once everything is aligned and in place, tighten them using your 3/16 Allen driver. Then, go ahead and plug in your main wiring harnesses into the back of the radio until they click into place. Now, depending on your model, you may have 1 or 2 wiring harnesses. Then, just go ahead and plug in your antenna. Now we're ready to route our USB input. Remove the contents from the left pocket and drill a pilot hole approximately 2 inches from the bottom. Then, use a step-up bit to increase that hole diameter to at least 21mm or about 7/8 of an inch. Use caution when drilling your hole. Our motorcycle has an amplifier mounted behind the pocket, so we'll drill our pilot hole from the back and continue from the inside. Once the hole is drilled, insert the rubber grommet until it's seated into place. If your system requires RCA outputs or an auxiliary input, now would be a good time to connect this harness. However, our system utilizes an aftermarket Rockford Fosgate audio system that utilizes the high-level speaker outputs, so this harness isn't necessary. For the RCA jacks, plug in the front, rear, and sub outputs to the appropriate RCAs that feed the system. Now the preamp is rated at 4 volts output, so these won't clip at full volume. For the auxiliary input, we offer the PAUX adapter that converts the RCA jack to a panel-mounted 3.5mm plug for compatibility with other devices. You'll also notice an extra blue wire that can be used to turn on aftermarket amplifiers as well. Now that we have everything plugged in, we're ready to test the system and make sure everything works. Now, since we're using an aftermarket Rockford Fosgate audio system, we may need to retune the amplifier. But what's cool is we have this free amp tuning guide that's downloadable in the description of this video and directly from our product details page at rockfordfosgate.com. Once everything checks out, we're ready to reassemble the motorcycle and get this thing back out on the road. As you can see, that install came together pretty easy, and adding this source unit to the front fairing speakers and the rear bag lid kit completes the Rockford Fosgate audio experience. Now, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact our technical support. They can be reached Monday through Friday at 1-800-669-9899 or through live chat at the bottom of our website at rockfordfosgate.com. Until next time, I'm Eric for Rockford Fosgate. We'll see you again soon.